you go off to London.
Yes, okay, so
Yes.
now the 60s, my brother left, no, first my sister left and came to study in London. Then my brother left, but before that my father was arrested. So then it was just my mother and myself. We were just alone here in Cape Town, and the family was dispersed. And my mother would sometimes be arrested and not come home, and I'd be followed by the special branch, and there were microphones in the wall, and the phone was tapped, and stories of people we knew who had died in detention, and I became very frightened and very paranoid, to the point of I'd walk down Adderley Street and it's like I couldn't handle it, because it just felt all the buildings were just pressing in on me. I suppose nowadays it would be diagnosed as a panic attack,
Right.
but then I just, it was just scary. I didn't know what to call it, or I didn't know how to process what was happening. And because I was totally isolated, I was very much on my own with it. And my mother did send me to a psychologist, a clinical psychologist, to have some therapy. And he got back to my mother and said, your daughter's obviously suffering from delusions, and she's paranoid, she's paranoid and psychotic, and she says she's been followed. She says there's microphones in the wall. And my mother said, no, but it's true what she's telling you. She's not making it up. It's not a mental illness. It's true. All these things are happening to her.
And what did he respond? Well, how did he respond to your mother?
I think he couldn't cope with it,
Yeah.
because he came from an Afrikaans background, and to him he didn't want to know about these things. So what happened eventually, the turning point was somebody I thought I could trust. I was told that I mustn't see her anymore because she could well be an informer, and it's like that really broke me, because because I didn't have that many friends at the time. So I think after that it felt like everything was just too much, and I was getting into trouble at school, and so I had a breakdown. I had a psychotic breakdown, and then when I was in the hospital, the special branch came to interview me, but obviously they didn't get to me. They were kind of intercepted by the doctors and the nurses. But then it's a bit like the doctor, then he thought, well, okay, he needs to protect me. So he said to my mother, look, he released me from the hospital. He said, I mustn't go home. I need to go and stay somewhere else, a neutral place, and I need to leave the country. But I wasn't ready to go on my own to London. I mean, I was still very raw and fragile. So I went to London on my own, and I thought, well, that's great. All my problems are solved.
And now you're in London.
I'm in London. It's this, the 60s, it's like this exciting place, and wow, and I'm off to London. And then when I got to London, everything was so strange, and I kept getting lost, and it was even worse than before, because I think when I had my breakdown in Cape Town, everything was like very intense, and I had a sense of who I was and a sense of identity. But in London, this huge sprawling city where nobody knew me and I didn't know many people, I just became completely numb. It's like totally dead. It's like I think, and that to me was actually even worse. So I ended up going into hospital again, and that for a much longer period of time.